This is a time for justice. Welcome to today's show. The chemical warfare that's going on is real and it's serious, and people don't seem to care, and most people do not even know because the mainstream media is not covering it. Fox News may be the only mainstream media outlet covering it, but of course they're politicizing it instead of really focusing on what's going on here, which is sabotage. We all can see that it's sabotage. Anyone with common sense knows that it's sabotage. And how much more do you need to see? Because if we're only focusing on Ohio and we're not seeing what's happening around the country, well, then we can't get a grasp on the bigger picture, which is that tanks, or I should say train tanks, right? Trains are derailing, tanks are exploding, tanks are deliberately being set on fire to cause chemical bombs. We have trucks driving into trains. We have trains carrying diesel, dumping fuel and gasoline and oil into rivers. We have all of the fires going on in Florida. We've had some in South Carolina. We've had them all over, and it's not getting covered. And all of these aren't just fires. That's the thing. People are like, well, fires happen, factories burn. Yeah, we saw that with all the factories that got burned last year, the food manufacturing factories, and nobody was suspicious then when they were just shutting them down all over the place. Planes were flying into them. Yeah, those weren't causing chemical bombs. They were just killing off the food supply chain. Now what you're seeing are chemical bombs, and we have another. And thanks to a great subscriber on the website, Sean Fitzpatrick, I'm going to show and read his post here about what just happened in Boston, because most people probably didn't hear about it. The only way you would hear about it is if you're Googling it yourself or you watch truther channels like this who are picking up on these things, and people are sharing information. And again, that's why the website is a great place to be, a time for judgment.com. I'll have to change the name of that again, as all of you know what I'm doing here, but people are sharing things like this. Everyone's becoming aware of where this is happening, all these locations it's happening in. This is what we need to do, is we need to continue to network. So I hope to see more people on the website. So Sean shared this. Clean Harbor in Boston caught fire. I shared yesterday, I was accidentally there when it happened, drove through Braintree, Boston, but more info is coming out. Residents are pissed because they were not notified about the chemical fire. Advice was given to stay indoors and shut all windows, but no message was sent out. Air quality is reported okay, just like Ohio. And another funny coincidence, the Clean Harbor waste disposal site that caught fire, they carry all toxic things you can think of, is located on a river that goes into the Boston Harbor. So more water supply is getting contaminated. Funding all these trains and buildings are on water supplies. And that's what I've been covering, because that's the next thing they need to take out. Take a look at what just occurred in Boston.
Now at 5 o'clock, some worries in Braintree and some of the surrounding communities as well, as neighbors are being told that the air is safe, but they're not convinced after a fire at a waste treatment facility. That fire released hazardous material into the air, and people who live nearby were urged to close their windows and to stay inside.
Well, tonight, investigators are still trying to figure out exactly how the fire started. WBZ's Laura Hafley is live in Braintree, and Laura, people there want answers.
Yeah, when that fire broke out here at the Clean Harbors facility, neighbors were warned by officials to stay inside. Now that hazmat warning has been lifted, but as you mentioned, neighbors still have a lot of questions, including what exactly they've been exposed to.
I could see the flames, the glow shooting up.
Smoke billowed over Clean Harbors waste management facility Thursday night after 8 trailers burst into flames just blocks away from town councilor Elizabeth Maglio's Braintree home.
I could also see that at a certain point it turned to black smoke.
Officials warned neighbors to shut their doors and windows, while agencies including the Department of Environmental Protection and the Coast Guard searched the scene for danger.
We were all just left wondering what was burning that we were smelling.
We tried to get answers to those questions. Sat down with Braintree Fire Chief James O'Brien off camera to ask about the incident. O'Brien blames the fire on what he's calling spontaneous combustion. He says the fire released hazardous amounts of materials, including sulfuric acid and paint, into the air. Clean Harbors did confirm in a statement materials inside the trailers self-reacted.
What is it going to take for them to stop allowing this kind of environmental damage?
Maglio is demanding answers from agencies and elected officials.
We need to have a regional plan to work on, to address and respond to these kinds of incidents. There should be an evacuation plan that makes sense.
For now, Maglio is taking safety matters into her own hands, purchasing an air quality reader for her house, which reached an unhealthy reading of 154 during the fire.
This is the quality of air.
It sounds like you're a little frustrated with Clean Harbors.
We're very frustrated.
And you can see the cleanup happening behind me here. We've watched this throughout the afternoon, just trying to get this fire all the way cleaned up. Coming up tonight at 6, we talk to neighbors who are wondering what's next, and local officials asking the governor's office for help. Live in Braintree, Laura Hafley, WBZ News.
So Clean Harbors no longer clean. And it's not because of global warming. It's because of global sabotage. And we're seeing this happening all around the country, and people don't realize our water supply is under, not attack, it's under assault. Because that's what really is going on right now. Governments are assaulting and going after citizens. And it's happening all over the country. And instead of talking about this on what we're supposed to look at as our mainstream news outlets, CNN, MSNBC, well, they're giving you psyops like Chinese spy balloons and talking about UFOs being shot out of the sky. And of course, their favorite one to talk about, people's feelings, people's, wanting to chop things off their body, all sorts of insanity that doesn't matter in the long run, because really what matters most for us to sustain our lives and to live here on Earth would be food and water as human beings. That's what we really need, And then of course to stay warm and not get, die of freezing to death or hypothermia, those types of things. These are all things that we should care about. But again, they're shutting off energy grids all around the world. So people in the winter can't put their heat on. They're telling you can't use a fireplace. I mean, the insanity is unbelievable, but we know what these evil, wicked people are doing. So a fire was extinguished overnight at a facility that stores and treats waste in Braintree, Mass. Friday morning, a ladder truck could still be seen at the Clean Harbors facility in case of any hotspots. The town of Braintree said as of around 1 a.m. that the fire had been extinguished and the immediate threat had been resolved. The residents were told to stay in their houses as fumes erupted from the burning chemicals. And of course, it's just these waste places, right? Conveniently, Florida, plastic factory, right? Chemicals, toxic waste, plastic, all things that are not good to inhale. And all the citizens, they're just being told to quarantine inside, even though this lingers in the air for quite a period of time. And of course, hits your water and they pretend like, oh, the water's fine. Oh, we won't send in FEMA. Oh, we won't send anyone to test the water. Just trust the government, right? And the amazing part is they're telling you to trust the government when right now nobody should be trusting the government, no matter what their political affiliation is, especially after what they just pulled a few years ago. And they're actually coming out now more and more every day admitting that, just giving you the actual evidence that we've all spewed. Now they're saying that is fact, but they are never admitting to lying to the public or being wrong. They're just saying, oh yeah, well, you should still go and get it though. Huh? What? Yeah. Complete insanity. So they said usually when we're worried about damages from toxic fumes, we're worried about both the duration of exposure as well as the concentration of the fumes in the air. Knowing the amount in the air on a second-to-second basis is a little bit tricky, especially in the middle of the night when the fumes may be rapidly dissipating and spreading out. The other issue is that if you have two people both equally exposed to the fumes, they may have very different reactions. One person may live their life with no lung damage, and the other may have significant lung damage. Yeah. And of course, as always, their MO, they can't be linked to any of it. Right? So you can't ask questions and they don't have to answer any questions about it because you can't link it to them. You can't sue them, even though that would never work in this country because we know the courts and everything are all controlled. But they're never going to be held accountable. And they can just say these are accidents. Trains are just derailing all over the place. Factories are just catching fire all over the place. They say that's normal stuff, right? We should be talking about what happened last year with the food factories, and that still has just been completely ignored. Right? How convenient it was that they were like, it's normal for factories to catch fire. This is a conspiracy if anyone thinks that, oh yeah, hundreds of food manufacturing plants, hundreds, not 5, right? Which might even seem a little bit high being that it's a food manufacturing plant. So you would think they have security at night. You would think they have everything in place because they're making trillions of dollars, or maybe not that much, but they're making a lot of money. This isn't like, a local company selling copper cables that has a little factory that catches fire overnight. And, it doesn't have a lot of money to protect itself, doesn't have cameras, doesn't even know the fire, happened in the middle of the night, got a phone call, They would know all this stuff. They'd be able to prevent this stuff. They have things in place to prevent it. But of course, they didn't want to prevent it. They wanted it to happen, just like this. Now, this is, like I said in a previous video, if you didn't see, this is like the Joker in Batman, spraying the gas on the people, right? Throwing the money at them. It's almost like a predictive program, even though, you know, it's hard to link the two to that, link this to that. But I mean, it's what it looks like. I mean, you have orange gas coming out of a truck in Arizona. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen a truck on the side of the road tipped over that had gas coming out of it? Like purple gas, orange gas, green gas? No, it's not normal. But it's not just that. It's not one incident. If it was one, then you could say, let's look at it. Ohio's the only one they're talking about. But if people actually knew that 10 to 20 of these things have been happening over the last month, people go, there's something up. There's chemicals in the other, just hitting people with chemicals. It's like a chemical bomb. But they're not covering it. Why? Because they don't want you to connect the dots. So when CNN covers it, they're just like, oh, yeah, that's horrible what's going on in Ohio, those poor people of Ohio. They're not mentioning all these other ones going on, because then even the dumbed down libs would see that and they would go, all right, wait a minute, something might be going on. All right, who am I kidding? They wouldn't. They would still think it was all coincidence because, you know, look at them. I mean, it's pretty pathetic at this point, isn't it? So we have people that are getting not only hit with things that are going to be long-term health effects and have long-term health effects, but I cannot emphasize how important it is to realize what is being done to the water supply, okay? They know that people have plans not only, obviously, to be able to get water for themselves in the event of a complete grid shutdown, okay, to be not reliant on them. People have plans in place, those of, you know, us, right? They also want to destroy the wildlife as well as the fish and the sea life, and they're doing that. Animals are dying all over the place, right? We see birds mysteriously now falling out of the sky. We see fish washing up on shore. Not to mention some of the other stuff, which I'll cover in a separate video, where, you know, we have whales and all this wildlife, you know, sea life, washing up on shore and on the East Coast. It's insanity. It really is. But that just shows you the majority of society only get their information from mainstream media, and then, you know, they feed to them and just constantly talk about disinformation to try to just keep them inside of their box. And it's like, well, this isn't disinformation, what people like me are saying. I'm showing you what's going on. You might not agree that it's chemical warfare because you're naive and you're weak and you actually think the government has your best interest at heart because it's too much for your brain to deal with, because you want to think everything is cupcakes and roses and everything's fine and everyone loves each other, and people like me and you know, the listeners of this channel are all horrible people and we just try to keep people in fear. Oh, yeah. Actually, they're the ones who are living in fear. I'm not fearful of this stuff. I have a plan in place. And besides, I have faith through salvation through faith in Jesus Christ. So, I mean, what else do you want me to say? I'm trying to inform people and show you that these are not coincidental. These things do not normally happen. Okay? Factories just don't catch a blaze like this. This is them. This is well constructed. This is done on purpose. These trains can be linked to BlackRock and Vanguard. These factories are obviously deliberately picked, okay, because they know the fumes that'll come out of here. There's toxic waste fumes coming out of here, deliberately done, and they're all set, of course, on harbors, on rivers, on seas. Don't forget, you know, the oil spill out in Oregon, Oregano-gon, whatever you want to call it. People are correcting my pronunciation of Oregon, whatever you want to call it. I mean, really, it's probably was a beautiful place at one point, but yeah, anyway, let me continue on here. The chemical attacks are being done deliberately. It's all happening at once. This is an unheard of amount of these types of explosions and fires around our country within a short period of time. Their foot is on the gas. This is the next phase of many phases of what they're trying to do. They're not just trying to make people sick and kill people, which they are doing. People who are inhaling this stuff, I pray for them. Pray for their children. I saw one guy in the news, he's talking about how his wife is like 36 weeks pregnant, 35 weeks pregnant. And it's just like, it's horrific. So she's breathing in, it goes directly to the baby in her stomach, right? But what do these people care? They don't think that that baby's even a living thing because they're just completely clueless and sick and demented. But it's absolutely unbelievable what's going on, that people aren't seeing it. You know, think about the Revolutionary War, the Civil War. You can look at it and you can say, well, I don't believe the history, and totally understand that. I look at those things too with a grain of salt. But I mean, the reason a lot of the people have gone to war over things is like maybe becoming more minuscule than what we're dealing with now. And people are like, well, don't say that about the Civil War. Well, we have a civil war going on right now. Really? Look what's happening to white people in America, which is predominantly white. We have white people under attack. And I'm not saying it because I'm a white person. I mean, I don't care about anyone's skin color at all. I just want to see these wicked elites who hate blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians. They hate everybody. I want to see them taken down. I want to see them taken down fast. I don't want to see them taken down swiftly. And I want to see our Lord and Savior punt them into the pit. But think about what's going on now. There's a civil war. I mean, white people are oppressed. You think the white people would rise up and say, hey, enough of this crap. But we actually have the white people in power saying that white people are evil. And you're like, aren't you white? And they're like, yeah, I hate myself. I hate my history. And nobody sees the mind control here. And then you have liberal white people that are like, yeah, I'm just ashamed. It's like, huh? What is happening right now? Seriously, what is happening? Meanwhile, there's chemical explosions all over the place, but people are too busy on TikTok and picking their nose and eating it to realize what's going on. Insanity. It is utter insanity. I will continue to cover this. Again, there's going to be more of these, I'm sure. There are other ones. I haven't even covered everyone. I've mentioned other ones in the videos because I can't do a video every couple of hours with an update and say, hey, there's one in Houston. I mean, maybe I should. Maybe that would help. But I mean, most people at this point are beyond waking up. But I'm trying to make you guys aware, just like everybody on the website is helping me be aware of all these things. It's hard to keep track. Unbelievable. Thanks again to Sean on the website for sharing it. Thanks everybody who is on the website for sharing all this great information. There's just tons of great stuff over there. Hope to see more people join the website. And again, please make sure you sub to my backup channel if you haven't. I am one strike away from not being able to upload for 2 weeks on this channel. So I wouldn't be able to upload for 2 weeks. And then one more, and the channel will vanish in the night, just like the last one did. So thanks again, everybody. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. God bless all of you and your families.